Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, I've recently acquired 3 Atari 800 or 8-bit line of computers, and I have some Atari content coming up on the main channel, and I wanted to see if these 3 computers are working properly. So in this video on this channel, we'll be taking a look at these, closer look at them that is, and then I'll be seeing if they work. They may all work, so there might be nothing to look at, but I still think it might be an interesting video. So let's jump into it. First computer to look at is this really nice looking Atari 800, one of the original 48K models. Well, I think it is 48K if we open this up and take a look at the inside. This machine is not the one we've looked at previously on the channel, the one where I had to repair the keyboard on it. This is a completely different one. And this has the normal Phillips screws here and here, which implies that this is one of the later versions of the 800. I think the original ones had little thumb screws in these 2 positions here that would give you easy access to the cartridges or the card slots that are back here. Now the word goes, or the story goes, at least what I'm told, and I'm not that much of an Atari expert here, is that those original cards that were in here, and we'll see when we lift this off, this should come off here somehow. How does this come off? There we go. All right, there we go. So these original cards on the first models were in plastic shells. They look like cartridges. That way you could easily take them out, upgrade your computer and stuff like that. But I think there was an overheating problem, and Atari went to this bare design here with this little holder that just sort of sits on there. And if we pop out one of these cards, these are RAM cards. So each one of these has 16K of RAM. Very nice that they are all socketed, which means easy servicing if any of the RAM is bad on this thing. So we have 3 cards there that are RAM. We have this card as well, which, what is this, like ROMs, I guess? And then I think there's one more card that you can't easily access without taking the lid off that's back here that maybe holds the CPU, graphics chip, something like that. Again, I'm not super familiar with the Atari architecture, so I might be getting that wrong. Let's just put these back in the machine for testing. As far as the rest of the computer goes, this 800 is in pretty nice shape. The last time I worked on my 800, as I mentioned previously, the keyboard was the only problem on that computer, but the rest of the computer actually just worked perfectly. It turned out that I think it was the membrane or something that was a problem on this, and I had to take the keyboard apart and shift the membrane over a little bit, and that got it working. Let's hope that this one doesn't have the same problem. For now, I'll just place this top on here. Looking at the bottom at the sticker, I guess serial number 34,000 or 348,574, number 23. Is that a plant number? Someone wrote that sticker there, whatever that means. And there's this sticker over here, which looks like this is from a reseller, like some retro computer reseller. For testing this computer, I found a power supply here. I think this is a third-party one, but I wrote Atari 800 and 810, that's the disk drives. So this thing outputs 9 volts AC. I think that's good enough. And I have this little pigtail, which I found, which I think it's the 800 and 800 XL, and this does have the Luma Chroma. And I think stock, this is not wired up. Maybe it is on this machine, but not the 800 XL. And you would only get the, what do you get on that? You only get the Luma, you do not get the color information. But with just the Luma, we can still test this thing. So that goes into the side, as does the power cable here, which I have no idea if this thing is on or not. So we'll pull that out of the wall first. And I'm gonna plug the composite video cable, which is right here, into the Luma output on this little harness. And where's the plug? Let's plug this into the wall here. Let's see, okay, we got nothing, a no power light right here. So we got a power light. Hey, that's cool. So basic is missing on here, but I do happen to have a basic cartridge, I think, sitting around somewhere right here. Let's see what I got. Here it is, the basic computing language cartridge. So that goes into the left slot here. And there is a little switch right here, so it powers off the machine if you open the lid, which is why I had to put this on, even though I don't have the screws in there, just to run the computer, or you have to stick something into there. Let's switch back to the inputs here. There we go. Close this, and this should load basic. There we go. Does the keyboard work? Oh, hey, all right. Now, I think there's a diagnostic you can do. Maybe you hold down Option. Nope. Select, Start, all 3. That might be something that's only on the XL version. I can't quite remember. Well, I'm just gonna see if these keys seem to work. Okay, we already have non-working keys. Well, it could be a lot worse. What do we have? We had only one E typed. Looks like we had only one semicolon typed, but already that key is working properly. Let's try the E key now. You know, just pushing it a couple times seems to make it work a lot better. I'm gonna pop one of these keycaps off. If I can find my keycap puller here. I wanna see what's underneath here because this seems to be working far better than my other computer. The other Atari 800, basically 0 of the keys worked. Oh, this is a different type of keyboard. These are stack pull switches. So these are actually mechanical. There are little, well, I mean, it's a slider and there are these little leaf spring contacts that are inside of there. And when you push this down, it actually pushes, the little contacts apart or pushes them together. I can't remember what it does, but either way, oh yeah, I see they're apart right now, but as you push it down, it actually pushes them together. Maybe I can get a little close-up of that. Oh yeah, you can kind of see in there. So when you push that down, see that? Oh, it's hard to, maybe if I pushed it with something other than my finger, which is blocking the view. So we push this down and you see those metal tangs come together. So these are quite easy to service. Now, some of the issues on these types of key switches though is this black plastic around the slider can crack. Now, I don't know if any are cracked on this, but that can happen. Now, I think some people have come up with the little plastic part that you can push around here to try to hold these black plastic slider part together. And it's possible that these white parts also break. But either way, this is a totally different keyboard than the one that was on my other one, which was some kind of a membrane thing. And I think that's why it totally didn't work. So that's actually kind of sweet. Oh, look at these nice keycaps, double shot. Very nice. Yeah, good quality keyboard. This was a really well-built computer. I mean, you saw when I had the lid off, all that metal RF shielding and stuff that was in there, just completely super high quality. Okay, I got some cartridges for this thing, so I think that's how we're gonna do some testing on this. One thing that's cool about these early 800s and 400s is there are 4 joystick ports on the front, and there are some 4-player games that take advantage of this. I'm assuming joystick port 1 is just this one over here on the left. It does have writing on it. Very hard to read. Yeah, that says 1 right there. And take a look at this. I ended up hooking up the Chroma Luma cable to the S-Video jack on the RetroTink, and it's working well. So the 800 is definitely one that has that extra jack. Okay, so got some game cartridges here. Just make sure they're the right type. They are. Star Wars arcade game. I don't even know if these work. Hey, that worked. Oh, I do have sound. Let me hook that up. How do I hook that up? Okay, speakers are hooked up. Works. I'm terrible at this game. What's weird about this game is you push up to go down and vice versa, because I think it's supposed to be like a flight stick. So, you know, you pull back to put the nose up, and it just feels a little unusual when you're using a D-pad like this. Obviously, I can't shoot the Death Star like that. But anyways, it's good to see that this is working. Oh, we're in the trench there. All right, let's see what the next cartridge is. We got Defender, right. Pop that in. This light problem here, that's completely to do with the RetroTink and has nothing to do with the Atari. It just takes a second and it will go away. My assumption is that the levels for the Chroma Luma or the S-Video output is not exactly what the RetroTink expects, so it takes a second for it to auto-calibrate, I guess. Either way, let's see if these keys work. So Option. Okay, well, Start key does work. Oops, killed my guy. Supposed to pick him up and drop him down nicely. Oh, killed him again. Ah. All right, well, anyways, that is working. This machine clearly is working well, except for those keys that were a little non-functional. We have Jungle Hunt. That's the last game here. All right, Option, regular. Let's see if the Option key works. Okay, that does work. So that switches between beginner, regular, and advanced. Select, that works as well. It's working okay. It's not great. Look at that. Whoops. Yeah. Boy, I have my timing down really badly. Either way, graphics are looking good though. It's kind of cool on the Atari to have a color palette that can be customized. So you're not just stuck with the same 16 colors or whatever, the amount of colors you can have on screen at once. You can pick from a palette of 512 colors or something like that, which is pretty cool. Allows for a little bit of a different look and feel to different games. This machine is doing really well. I'm really excited about that. So no repair needed for this. I am just going to reinstall these screws and we'll move on to the next machine. I did forget that if I was going to open this, what I would do is I would remove this cable. This is the RF output and it is unfortunately fixed. You can't just take it off. So I like to actually unplug it, or actually I think there's room inside this case. You could just tuck this wire in there. That way it's not just hanging out the back, because this is a bit of a, I don't know, it's a little bit of an eyesore. I don't really actually understand why Atari went through all the effort to make all these port connections along the side here and on the front of the machine, and they didn't just make this RF connection also on the side. I bet you had something to do with FCC compliance, something like that. Not quite sure. All right, the next machine is this one, which is an Atari 800 XL. So unlike the last version, this thing has basic built-in, so you don't need that cartridge. It also has 64K RAM versus the 48 that the last one has, so that this thing has some kind of RAM banking inside. Obviously, it's far smaller. It has a keyboard that feels terrible to type on. Now, I know there were a whole bunch of different types of keyboards. Oh, wow. That keycap does not want to come off. I don't want to break it. Wow, the whole keyboard is bending. Oh, wow, come on. Well, that keycap just did not want to come off, and I didn't feel like breaking the keyboard, but look at that. When you push on there, it's floppy. This machine is very cost reduced compared to the 800. 800 was overbuilt and really solid, and I think to compete with Commodore and the 64, they had to come out with this thing. So the RAM was the same, the cheap plastic construction is the same, although I think this thing is still better built. Well, I don't know, actually. The outside case doesn't feel better built, but I think it's got a bunch of RF shielding inside. It's got some serious yellowing going on here. Looks like it's mainly on the side there, but look at the color difference. Like the bottom is way more yellowed than the top is for some reason. This thing actually has the parallel port cover on it, which is kind of interesting. I don't know, everything else on this thing, oh, the bottom is just yellowed all around. Condition is actually quite good. Let's just see what the bottom says. There's not even a sticker. It is missing. It's also missing all of its feet except for one. To me, the case plastic, it just, I don't know, something about it. The other one is just super high quality. This one, the plastic just feels super cheap, and it's like the dullest texture possible, and it's not thin, but I don't know. Anyways, top side looks okay. Keyboard feels very mushy to type on. Hopefully it works. Layout's the same otherwise. It's got the same keys on the side. It has one cartridge slot, so that's compatible with these game cartridges and stuff. The other one had 2 cartridge slots. I don't even know what the right one is for. I think like a programmer's aid maybe, or something like that. I don't think many things used it. They also went away from using this type of AC power supply, and they went to a single 5-volt input, which I think is on here. Or no, correction, that's the video output. That is the power input, and it's only 5 volts, so there's nothing special about it. Luckily, since it is 5 volts, you could just use a normal 5-volt DC power supply. This looks like a 2-amp one, and then I just I added a DIN connector onto the end here. So that's all you need to power up one of these. And then for video, definitely doesn't have Luma Chroma right off the bat, but I think we should at least, what are we gonna get? We're definitely gonna get black and white image until that mod is done. You just have to run a wire inside the computer. Now, unlike Commodore 64s, these computers, well, to me, they seem to be very reliable. The keyboard is like the weakest point on them. Generally, the keyboard is even pretty reliable. It just feels really bad to type on, but reliability standpoint, whoever Atari was using, whether it was themselves for their fab or whoever they were using, made good quality chips. So unlike PLAs and SIDs and things that go bad, that's not really a problem with these machines. So here we go. Let's see what's going on here. I don't think this one is working. Nope, 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 nope. Interesting. Okay, so this one is bad. Let's open it up and take a look inside. I thought I saw a split second. Didn't it look like there was something showing up there for a second? Oh, you know what? That was left over from the 800. I think the frame buffer inside the RetroTink is just showing that little bit of that static there. I don't think that's actually coming from this computer. Let's try plugging a cartridge in though. Just see if that makes it work. No, black screen. Okay, so we're getting the equivalent of the black screen. Why don't we pop the cover on this thing and see what's inside? Now, part of me has me wondering, maybe this bottom cover, because it's missing the label, maybe this is like some kind of third-party replacement, which is why the plastic looks incredibly cheap and bad. One thing that's nice is all the screws seem to be exactly the same length, so I don't think you have any risk of putting them back in the wrong spot. So we had 6 screws. We just gently lift this up because the keyboard is connected with a ribbon. Ugh. Do not like this at all. Okay, so let's pop this out carefully here. There we go. Well, this is some kind of a mechanical keyboard, obviously. I know there are a bunch of different types. The thing is, you can see that this has key switches and they're soldered into the PCB. So that's kind of cool, actually. Don't know who makes it. Still has a very, very mushy feel, though. But like I said, definitely mechanical. I've worked on other ones of these where this definitely was like a membrane type keyboard because it had just a solid PCB. But this is terrible. But you know what? Frankly, it could be worse because you can actually replace these ribbon cables with wires if you so desire. You just have to take it all out, install a connector here, and or just install some wires. And then on the motherboard, you just remove this thing here, and then you can replace it with a connector that you can plug the wires into. So I have to try to remember how to take this apart. So there are little screws here, flathead screws. I think this comes out as a unit. So you just take the screws out of the motherboard here, and I think the whole thing with the shield comes out, and there are nuts potentially on the backside that hold it all in. So like there's a front and or top and a bottom to the shield, and it's clamshelled around the motherboard. So you have to kind of get the whole motherboard out. Ah, yes, okay, this is coming out now. And then you have to kind of like get it out this way because it's stuck into the ports here and stuff there as well. So I kind of remember you have to do stuff like this to get this out. There we go. All right. So I did try to take some of those top screws out, which resulted in some nuts here. So let's make sure none of those are there. Okay. And on the back side, yep, there's that bottom clamshell I was talking about. So let's get some of these nuts off and we'll get this thing apart. Okay, I think that is it. There it is. The bottom fell off. Let's see what we see on the inside. All right, very simplified. Oop, that was a screw I dropped in there. All right, so RAM, very interesting with those resistors there. Can't say I've ever seen that before, but I haven't worked on enough of these to know if that's normal or not. 4164s though, all pretty standard stuff. Crystal oscillator there. Everything is socketed, almost everything is socketed. These logic ICs aren't here, but these two 74 LS258s, or no, 2588. I'm not sure what those are actually. Looking at the date codes on the soldered ICs, we have 1983 27th week, 1984 15th week. And this is from 1982. That's interesting, a little bit of a date spread there. 1984 8th week. And this one here is 84 12th week. So I'm going to say that this thing was built some point after the 15th week of 1984. So, you know, it's pretty early on in the scheme of things, but also not that early. I think the original 800, like the one I showed before this, came out originally in 1979. So the machine had already been out for a while, but like I said, this was the cost-reduced version. All right, well, I'll just give this a quick test on the bench here with the cover off, and let's just see if any chip is getting super hot. I'm looking for the power supply. Here it is. I won't be doing any kind of full repair in this video here. Let's turn that on. Let's just make sure it's still not working. And yes, indeed, we're just getting a black screen. So still no functionality out of this. So let's just feel around for any kind of hot chips. Good band, by the way. I really like them. So far, the RAM is fine. Those are okay. I don't really know what should be hot and what shouldn't be. This chip is getting pretty warm, but that might be normal. It's not hot. It's just warmer than these other ones. Cold, cold, cold. These are all just pretty much cold to the touch. Nothing out of the nothing out of the ordinary here at all. The only chip that's kind of getting warm is this one right here, labeled CO12296. So it's obviously one of the custom chips for the computer. And I mean, it's not hot. I can just feel the die right there in the middle. It's getting pretty warm though, but that could be completely normal. I just did a quick little search and this appears to be the Antic chip, which is Antic the video chip? I forgot. I'm really terrible with my Atari architecture. Either way, okay, so yeah, it's just slightly warm, everything else is cold. So nothing obviously is the matter on this board, which means this will have to be a future repair. Alrighty, so the 800XL, I'm gonna put a note on here. Let's see, I'll test it. So 6/23/2023, black screen. So this will go into the pile with the other broken machines. I have Commodores and other things there for a future video. All right, and the third machine is this. It is an 800XL as well, but as you can see, it's in the original freaking box. How awesome is that? Hopefully the machine that's in here looks as good as this one without any yellowing and stuff like the last one. But I haven't even opened this, so I have no idea how this actually looks. First things first, let's just take a look at the outside of the box. I'm not going to dwell on it too much. People complain if I talk too much about the packaging of stuff. But take a look at this. What will you do with all the extra memory? Ooh, in addition to all the extra memory power, the 800XL has a lineup of special features you'll find only in Atari home computers, like built-in Atari Basic programming language, superior sound and color graphics capabilities, full-stroke keyboard, full-function control keys, easy TV hookup, and an expander connection for adding future generations of Atari peripherals. Okay, so of all those things listed here, what exactly is only available in Atari computers? I'm just trying to zoom up here a little bit. Obviously Atari Basics only in Atari computers, yeah, sure. And maybe that the peripheral add-on thing, that's the parallel port in the back that only works with Atari stuff, but full stroke keyboard, I mean, that was pretty common by the time this machine came out. Full function control keys, I mean, that was pretty common stuff. Easy TV hookup, yeah, I mean, Commodore 64 just had the RF connection on it directly. I guess the Apple II required an extra add-on for that. But we have these blurbs, little blurbs of text here from these folks here. Here's a little girl. Because we have so much memory, I can create beautiful computer graphics with programs like Paint. A little 3, not an asterisk, a little 3. With extra memory, I can use programs like VisiCalc and the Bookkeeper to really organize my home business. Really? Here's someone that's wearing a very 80s jacket and 80s glasses. I love it. All this memory means I can program with advanced programming languages like Microsoft Basic to really make some fantastic color graphics and sound. Wait a second. So Atari Soft Basic, the one that says it comes with, is not Microsoft Basic? I guess that's a cartridge you can get and it's more powerful than the Atari one? Amusing. By using Atari Writer and a disk drive, I can create or enter, store, rearrange, and retrieve my research materials in minutes. Oh, look, he's even got elbow pads on his jacket. I don't know if you can see that. They're black color, but there are elbow pads there. I love it. Freaking love it. And lastly, down here, this woman here looks like a vet, and she's got a husky. We use the extra memory for programs like TimeWise to help schedule all of our patients' appointments. That's one of her patients right there, I guess. Or she's a medical doctor for humans, and that's just her dog. Anyhow, okay, anything else interesting on the box? Nah, not really. Everything else just looks sort of run-of-the-mill, other than the fact that this has the 1984 Olympics here. This was the Los Angeles Olympics, so obviously this was sold around that time, and tie-in promotion. I know Pretty sure Commodore did the same thing, didn't they? Or maybe not. Maybe Atari was like the computer for the '84 Olympics. All right, well, let's see what's in here. You know, there may not even be a computer in here for all I know. It's heavy, so if there's no computer in here, there's like bricks or something in here. All right, well, there is the packing material, and it looks like we have some papers here, a few manuals. We have the Atari 800 Owner's Guide, nice shiny paint and everything. Oh, really nice photographs. That is very slick. Commodore never had anything like this, that's for sure. This is very nicely produced. Gives you information on how to hook it up. Tells you how to run the diagnostics. I can see the keyboard and the music diagnostic right there on that page. Some shortcuts and a little basic program. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, we have a little guide here to Atari Basic for experienced programmers. It's the reference guide. It just sort of gives you shortcuts to the various programs, or commands, that is. Here's a brochure. I wonder if this is from the computer store. 64K of memory, 200 or 2,000 software programs, 256 colors. I misspoke earlier. I said 512, so 256 is the color palette you can use, and I think you can pick up to 16 of those for on-screen at once. 4 voice color, Atari Basic, blah, self-testing, blah, 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 international character set. Fancy, fancy, fancy. So this is a nice assortment of plug-in accessories. So we have an Atari Touch tablet, a plotter or some kind of a printer, color printer, dot matrix printer, and another printer. A number pad. I didn't know there was a numeric keypad for the Atari. Let's zoom in on that. Maybe the camera can get better exposure. So yeah, it looks like an external numeric keypad. We have the matching disk drive and cassette drive for this computer. So they redesigned their peripherals to match the aesthetics with these little slices in the case there for the vents. The Atari 1030, I'm pretty sure that's a modem. And then we have the Atari joysticks that look really thick, a lot thicker than what I would expect. And a trackball for those games like Centipede. And then we have someone here who's really putting in the effort here and doing some serious word processing work on his Atari 800 XL. He looks like he's deep in thought. He's writing his PhD research paper. Here's what we all wanted to see. It's the comparison between the Commodore 64 and the 800 XL. Well, right off the bat, we knew that the RAM size, of course, the 64 is going to have 64, but 16 and 48K. Now, this is interesting. Available programs, 2,250, 250. I mean, more than. It's pretty hilarious. Now, in the end, I'd probably have to argue that the 64 ended up with more programs for it. Way, way more than the Atari ever had. But by the time this came out, the Atari had already been out ahead of the 64 for what, like 3 years or so. The Coco came out in 1980, I think. So the 64 was 82. I'm already forgetting all my years. But either way, it's just funny to see metrics like this. Programming languages, 8, 3, and 3. Full stroke keyboard. I guess that's because the Coco had the chiclet keyboard at first and then had those terrible little half melted keyboard looking thing only until the Coco 3, and I think the very end of the Coco 2 did have a full stroke keyboard, so to speak. A help key. I mean, that's a great feature. Processor bus. Really? Yes, no, and yes. That is a scam. The side port on the Coco is a cartridge connector, and yes, it allows for all sorts of cool expansions. I'm sorry, but the cartridge port on the 64 is also pretty capable of expanding the computer. I mean, look at all the crazy peripherals that exist in that plug into that connector. The one on the back of this machine, what is it, parallel bus? Yeah, that's a full-on expansion processor bus. But come on, I think it's like the cartridge port on the Ataris is a lot more limited in what it can do compared to the ones on these two computers. But saying that the 64 does not have a processor bus, expansion bus, that is ridiculous. International characters, yes, no, and no. I mean, also, give me a break. You can redefine the characters on, well, at least on the 64. Not on the Coco, though. That is definitely not true. But please, graphics modes, I mean, okay, I don't know. There's multiple graphics modes on the Coco as well. It has a 320 by, like 200-ish resolution, I think, that can display artifact color on NTSC modes. So, incorrect information. CPM option. I mean, there definitely was CPM for the 64. It didn't work very well, but it did exist. Self-test, yeah, sure, it's built in on this thing. Factory service centers, 1. 1? What? Really? Weird. Does anyone have any idea how they get away with saying that in 1984 Commodore had 1 factory authorized service center? So that means all those dealers that were out there couldn't do warranty repair? I mean, maybe that's true, but that's shocking. But anyhow, as Atari would say, and of course Commodore would say the same thing if they did a similar comparison, the right choice is easy to make. Pick Atari, but they can't actually say that, but they can insinuate that. Okay, well, let's continue on here. So we have the service contract. Nice, 10 questions and answers. Does this have a list of all the authorized dealers in here? It may. No, it won't, of course, because it said there were like 10,000 or something like that. Okay, look at this. Atari home computers, the next generation. So this was like before we had Star Trek Next Generation. I think that came out in 87, if I recall. So we have the 800 XL, we have the 600, which is a neat little super compact package. The 1450 XLD. I have to say, I have never even heard of that. This has got to be the 1200 or 1400. I thought there was a 1200 as well. That's interesting. I guess I'm just not familiar with those particular computers. This is a nice brochure though. Very nice, very slick. Looks like they're using an Atari. Sorry for all the glare. Can't really get this any better. They're using an Atari there to design some kind of like airplane or something. Sure, that happened a lot, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not picking on Atari here. I'm just saying using an 8-bit computer for that type of work, it's kind of unlikely. All right, so here they're talking about all the different computers. So the Atari 600 XL, which, if I recall, it's 16K, expandable to 64 with optional expansion module. What was the real difference between the 800 and the 600, other than the fact that this came with 16K? I love how small it is, though. Look at that compact shape. Really, really slick. Then we go on to the 800, which is what this machine is here, the one that sold the most, obviously. It came with 64K of RAM, 24K of ROM, etc., etc. And next up, all right, so the computer that talks to you and to the world, the 1400 XL. Remember earlier I said I didn't know what the Antic did? That controls the screen and the I/O. POKI is for sound, GTIA is the, well, TIA is television interface adapter, and G is graphical or great? I don't know. Either way, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's different on the 1400 because it says it comes with 64K and it doesn't talk about any expandability. It says it has a built-in modem and built-in speech capability. Oh yeah, right down here it says 300 baud modem built in. Cool. I was just really under the impression that a computer that sort of looked like this came out. It was called the 1200 XL with this like larger case format. I don't know. What the heck is this? I've never even heard or seen this. This is the 1450. Oh, you know, I couldn't tell from this picture here that the 1450 had built-in floppy drives. Well, did this ever actually come out? That's what I want to know. Estimated availability, October 1983. My assumption is that this computer is exactly like the 1400, where it has a modem built in. Does it talk about that? Yeah, 300 baud modem, probably has the speech capability built in, and then of course it has 2 internal disk drives. Then this goes on to all the different peripherals. There is the super chonky joystick. So this is the original one I'm thinking of. What? They're wireless? They're wireless. Did those come out too? Look at that big antenna. Oh, that's so cool. I love it. Fourth quarter, 1983, estimated availability. Neat. I'm pretty sure this came out for sure. And then that definitely came out. The modem came out, which is right there. And this tablet, or not the tablet, the keypad there, I don't know if that came out. I wonder how that connected up to the computer. I guess my assumption is it connected up with a serial I/O port or something like that. Funny, this. Cool. Well, look at these kids here. They are excited to be playing on their machine. She's almost ready to throw that joystick right out of the window. That girl has very manicured fingernails. A lot better than mine. And yep, looks like they're using a 1400 XL or something. It's not the normal 800 like I have here. And then this talks about a bunch of the software available for the computers. Cool, cool, cool. We have some different bundles that were available. That's pretty awesome. And yeah, there we go. The next generation. This is really cool. I'm digging this. Whoever had this thing, it was awesome. They kept all this stuff. And a program recorder. So this is the cassette drive that went with this computer, which I don't have. Looks like there was originally room for some wires right here. And let's move this off to the side. Wow, look at that. So 800 XL, and it is in pretty nice shape, unlike that other one. And you know what? I'm telling you, the bottom of this one has a nice texture to it. And the color, it doesn't look like the cheap junk plastic that was on the other one, but like this just literally has a really good texture, the same as the top. And that other one did not have that. What's this though? RGT, that's that same place we saw before. Andrew and date 2021, so pretty new. And yeah, it says cleaned. And this thing is very clean and in really, well, it's not like amazing. There's quite a bit of dust between the keys. Keyboard doesn't bend like the other one does. The whole computer seems like it's in pretty good shape though. And because this has that date on the bottom, I'm assuming it's going to work. All right, this has this with it. What is this? It's like a matching transformer or something. I don't really know. So it's RCA on both ends, and then RCA to F connector, which is what we use in the US here to hook up an RF connection. Look at this big chonkin thing here. So 5 volts, 1.5 amps. Compare that to the power supply that I use, which is like a little bit different. This is so heavy. It's obviously like a linear supply in there. I can feel a giant transformer and a voltage regulator. Funny. All right, well, let's give this thing a test. Alrighty, here we go. We are ready for testing. Okay, this one's working, so we're getting monochrome, which is understandable because it doesn't have that mod done to it. Hey, it totally works though. So if we hold down, I think, Option and hit reset, no, select reset, one of these will go into the diagnostics. Help is help. No, I thought it was help. Turn this off and on. Oh, there we go. I think I held down Option again. Okay, let's see here. Select. So we'll do memory. No, let's do the sound one first. Audio visual. 8-bit dance party? It'll do it again. All right, well, this tests the different voices. I think the 4 voices that are available. Sounds good, no problem. So as I said, these things are generally very reliable computers. Exit with the help key. Let's do the keyboard test. Yeah, okay, seems like everything is working, so that's cool. It doesn't feel terrible to type on either, as I have an 800 XL, which I bought quite a while ago. I got it at Goodwill or something like that ages ago, or maybe I bought it from a local person, and it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. It's in decent shape. It had like a dent here in this cartridge door, but then the keyboard on that thing just felt like mush. So when you type on it, it's like you're typing into a, I don't know, if you put a keyboard under in a swimming pool or something, or into a water bed, it's just like bleh. So this one's not great, but it certainly feels way better. The one I have, the original one, not only is it mush, but if you push the keys on the edges, like you don't hit them perfectly straight on, it binds really badly too. This one does not have that problem. So, okay, that is excellent. Let's go back to the main menu, which we are already on, and we'll do memory test, and we'll let this test through. And I'm sure this is working. As far as it's my understanding on an Atari 800, or at least the XLs, if there's a memory problem, it will automatically just jump into the diagnostics. So if you turn your computer on and you go straight to the diagnostics, it's probably a memory problem. While this tests, I went and grabbed the bottom cover on the other one, and I thought it had no texture on it. But upon closer inspection, this actually has the same texture as the bottom of this one. It's just the surface is so matte, you can't see the texture. It's like it's invisible, but if you look at it at the right angle, then the texture appears and it feels like it's got the same texture. So I guess this is not a replacement bottom. I just don't understand why the plastic is so dull and horrible looking on this bottom, while the top actually looks fine. I mean, it certainly has more yellowing than this one, but it has the same nice texture and it feels the same. Like, it doesn't feel cheap and nasty. This though just feels like it's just terrible. Also, I'm noticing, just looking here, I can see, looking through the edge of the keyboard there, I know you can't see that, so let me switch to the other input here. So looking through the edge of the keyboard, you can see right down to the PCB, sort of giving away that this is some kind of a mechanical keyboard. But on this one, definitely that is not the case. You can see shininess down there, so that is a membrane keyboard. So membrane versus mechanical. I think the mechanical ones are certainly more desirable to get. I don't know if they're more reliable or not, but I can obviously transplant this into another machine. Oh, look at that. The font is totally different too. Look at that. Okay, so check out the letter A there, and look at this one. Look at that, and the control versus this one. So I don't know if that's a giveaway. The Atari folks will know a lot more about it than me. There's a difference there. So one is mechanical, one is membrane, but this one does work. And I don't think I've ever had an 800 XL, like any of these later ones, like the 600 or 800, that didn't have a fully working keyboard. I think they've always worked. All my keyboard problems seem to be with the 800, the original 800. And then the 400 has that, you know, flat membrane type keyboard, and that's a different story. So anyways, okay, let's see. Is this thing running the diagnostics correctly? Switch back the correct input. I think it's still testing the RAM, so we'll just let it finish. And I'm sure this is gonna be totally fine. While we wait for the diags to run a little bit, I'm just gonna give this thing a little bit of a clean. Even though it said it was clean, it's still a little dirty. And to be honest, if you put something like a plastic protectant on this black plastic or this brown plastic here, this thing will clean up really, really nicely. Since the plastic is not painted, it will absorb any type of plastic protectant material you apply to it, and it will make it shine and look, you know, pop again. It won't have that dull texture this thing has right now. This particular XL may be my nicest one yet. I think I don't know how many of these 800 XLs I have now. Maybe like 4 of them, I think. And this is by far the cleanest and nicest one. And I think if I clean in between the keys here and I put the plastic protectant on it, it will look amazing. All right, so the RAM test, as you can see, is like looped around there. So that means it is done. And this thing is great. So let's put in one of these cartridges here. Not the basic one. Let's try Defender. Of course, we're gonna have monochrome, but that is understandable. Now, sometimes you have to hold down the Option key while turning it on, which I think disables the internal basic ROM, but I don't think you have to do it with these game cartridges. There we go, that just loaded straight up. Now, the mod to make this thing color when you're hooked up through S-Video is a really easy one. There are guides online if you wanna look up how to do that. I did it on that first 800 XL that I got. Oh good, I'm plugged into the right joystick port. There we go, actually finished the level. Let's try Jungle Hunt next. Okay, that worked. So hit start. Boy, my timing is just absolutely atrocious with this game. That is working. And I had one more cartridge, which I have misplaced. There it is, it was the Star Wars game. Put that in. Okay, it looks good, it's just a little dark because we don't have the color, but it goes without saying that the Atari 800 XL, if you use it with composite video, absolutely has color. You don't need to worry about doing the mod. The mod is really easy, if I recall. It's like literally running a single wire to the extra pin that's just not connected. For whatever reason, this machine has the chroma circuitry in there, and they just never ran a trace to the connector. Why exactly? I don't know. Maybe that's something that the higher models supported and they wanted to differentiate it somehow, but not quite sure why Atari did that. Either way, this computer is working well, and that is awesome. There we go. Yeah, option when you power it on is how you get to the self-test. And we'll do the music test again. Alrighty, so out of the 3 machines, we had a really mint condition 800 XL. This thing is really heavy too. So yeah, the RF shielding in there, oh, it looks nice. Like it's not corroded or anything in there. I can see how shiny it is. This thing just weighs a bunch. Either way, this machine is in beautiful condition and is fully operational. The 800, the original 800, is also in beautiful condition and fully operational as well. And the only one that's not working is that other 800 XL that is going to need a repair. So there will be a future video repair on that. And I guess that's going to be that. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. If you have any thoughts about stuff I've talked about, like the smack I talked about Atari in this video, definitely put comments down below. And yeah, thanks to my patrons. I don't know, not much else to say. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.